Well, welcome back to Talking Chi, where it's all about the energy. And if everything's made of energy, we have a lot to discuss. Let's get into it. And I'm Javi. I'm here with my co-host Nona. I hope,
Hey, everyone.
I hope that Nona is going to be leading more of the conversation today. So I'm happy to follow with our guests today and asking them questions and having a conversation about our experiences with Qigong. And I will say also, just to preface, every feeling and sensation and every thought that you have while you're doing Qigong, while you reflect on your Qigong practice is all valid because it's all coming through you as a filter. And so as you digest material, it's great to also bounce things back and forth with one another and articulate what is happening in the body and what we're experiencing, especially as we continue to learn. So I just want to mention that at the beginning.
So our guests here today are Dennis, Margaret, and Anne, who have been students with us, co-practitioners with us in Qigong for over the past few years. And we just wanted to invite them to get a perspective or three varying perspectives on the practice and see what we have to talk about as far as the experience that's been experienced on the journey so far, which is a few years. So let's start by maybe each one of you taking a turn to introduce yourself and just touch on what brought you to the practice and how you would describe Qigong. Maybe we'll do that second. We'll start with how you came to the practice of Qigong, your personal story. We'll start there. Anyone like to start?
Anne cleared her throat. Go ahead, Anne.
Did I clear my throat? Okay.
We all heard you.
Okay. I'll dive in. Well, curiosity is really what got me started. I'd dipped my toes into Qigong over the last 20 years here and there. And so I was getting more and more curious. And I had noticed there's meditation Qigong. There was all different kinds of Qigong that I found through people and through videos and YouTube and books. And I gradually just decided, well, I'm going to look on YouTube and see if I can find something that seems really genuine. And I looked around for a couple months and then I stumbled on Javi and Nona's YouTube channel. And it struck me immediately as like, this is the real thing. This is genuine. These people really are into it deep. And I just thought I want to go there and find out more. So that's my little history.
Fantastic, Anne. Thank you so much. I distinctly remember which video. I think it was spring. Was it spring? No, it was winter. Winter set that you commented on our YouTube video, specifically too on our cat guest that we had on the video that day, a longtime resident of the retreat center. So I just distinctly remember that. So I like the cat too. So yeah, he's pretty special. He's a Qigong martial cat for sure. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for your story. And let's see, Margaret, Dennis, one of you want to jump in?
I'll jump in. I started about almost exactly 2 years ago. It was around this time, 2 years ago, I started. And COVID was raging at the time, of course. It was the year 2020. So, but I knew absolutely nothing about Qigong, didn't know it existed even. I had seen snippets of Tai Chi and things like Kung Fu and things like that on TV and movies and things like that. Tai Chi, you would see people, groups of people in a park doing Tai Chi together. And to me, you know, in my ignorance, it kind of looked to me just like a intricate line dance or something they were doing. I didn't really understand what they were doing and why they were doing it. So, but it looked interesting to me. So one time I mentioned to my son that that I might be interested in, you know, looking at Tai Chi, and he told me that he had been um, attending some of your sessions, I guess, and he had some experience with it. So he told me about your weekly session that you were doing. So I decided to try it. And for the first 6 months or so, I was just kind of dabbling in it. I didn't really, you know, have too much understanding of what exactly we were doing. You know, I was kind of treating it like an aerobic exercise or something like that. You know, I wasn't really understanding the theory behind it and you know, how important it really was. But around the beginning of 2021, I kind of made it like a New Year's resolution to kind of to delve into it a little deeper. And I started reading and watching videos and things like that. And you know, I got more interested in it. And of course, Javi and Nona were giving little snippets of information during the sessions. You know, that kind of piqued my interest too. So that's how I started.
Thanks, Dennis.
Well, I guess it's my turn. This
Go
is
right
Margaret.
ahead, Margaret.
Hi. And well, I've been thinking as I've been listening to Anne and Dennis, how did I start? You know, but there have been little bursts of awareness in my periphery for a long time. You mentioned the retreat center, or where you were studying. My music teacher had gone there, not as I think he just went like and did like day things there, maybe classes or something. And he mentioned it to me. And it was right near where he lived. He lived up in Miranda. And I had lived there for a long time too. And oh, I thought that's interesting. There's something like that right here, you know, well, and then it went away, you know, down the river. And then something else came up. And that was when you, Nona, became employed at KMUD, where I'm a volunteer also. And in your interview, I was on that committee, and you mentioned Qigong, and you mentioned Tai Chi and Qigong, and I also have another friend who's a Tai Chi teacher. So there's another little glimmer of awareness, like in my periphery. And I thought, Tai Chi, yeah, I know that, but what's that other thing? Qigong? What on earth is that? And I couldn't even remember what it was called. I had to ask you several times. And then I met Javi, and then it developed that you were going to do these classes. And I thought, well, I'm going to do that and find out what it is. It sounds like it might be something that I could adapt for my own life. And I have. And one of the things that I really like about it is that it applies all the time. It's not just something you go somewhere and do, you know, it's something that you can involve in your whole life. You know, I know that the breathing and the movement and breathing combined, that's not just I call them poses. They're not really poses, but the movements that we do in class, it doesn't just apply to that. It applies to my stretches. It applies to my walking. It applies to when I'm standing in line and I'm doing my foot awareness thing, you know, all of those things. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about it, that it transcends those limitations that other disciplines and classes seem to impose. So that's my story, pretty much.
Fantastic. It's great to hear all of your beginning stories. It's really kind of fun. I don't think I quite knew that that's exactly how you came to the practice. So thanks for sharing. And my next question then, and you alluded to it in various ways, is that we're talking about it. We're talking about Qigong. We came to it. We started it. What, in a nutshell, if you were just sitting around with some friends or you're telling them this thing that you've begun, how would you describe it, Qigong, to them, another person? Anyone want to tackle it?
That's what people ask me frequently. If I say I'm going to a Tai Chi class or I'm going to a Qigong class, and my friends will always say, well, what's Tai Chi? And I'll say, well, it's like Qigong. And they'll say, well, what's Qigong? And I'll say, well, it's like Tai Chi. It's but I mean, this just goes on frequently. So I don't really have a lot of knowledge, but to describe it to my friends, I say, Qigong is a movement of energy in the body. It's a movement of the qi. And you can achieve that either by like just sitting and meditating. You can, with your mind and in a meditation, move the qi through your body. Or you can do body movements and you can move qi that way. And you put your mind on those movements. And I'll say the movements look a lot, sometimes they look like Tai Chi. There are these graceful dance-like movements, but really it's moving this energy in your body, and it's addressing minute areas of the body. It can address the whole body, but it can address just minute areas. And it's in general relaxing and fun. That's in a nutshell.
Not an easy task to describe it in a nutshell. There's a lot of nuances and things that you can touch on. So, Anne, thank you. That was very nicely put. Anyone want to add their version? What is it that you tell people if you're just casually having to explain to somebody what this complex thing that is that we do? Usually,
if I mentioned it to somebody, they have no idea what I'm talking about. And if you mention something like qi or body energy and things like that, they're lost right away. So usually what I do is I would just describe it as, easy, slow body movements that are meant to sort of increase your circulation, of course, increase circulation of qi as well. But just to generally develop a healthy feeling in your body, and also to I don't know.
Sometimes there's a pause. Yeah.
It loosens your joints. It gives you a general sense of well-being, and but if you try to describe that to people, they don't really understand it. So I try to stick more to the physical aspect of it, of the movements and the physical benefits of it.
No, one time you said that you translated the words Qigong for us as energy work. And that's what I tell people. I just say, well, it's energy work. And you use your breath with movement to work on the energy in your body. I try to keep it short because people don't have a long attention span for long explanations of stuff. And that's pretty much what I say. And then if they're interested, and I often just say, well, why don't you come to the class? I'll send you the link. And I've sent quite a few people the link, but not very many people have followed through on it. But I keep it succinct to that energy work thing. And I like that a lot because it kind of says the whole thing in a nutshell. And then if they ask further, I say, well, it's helped me improve my balance, improve my stamina in different ways. So that's probably another question. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that we refer to what it is by what it does for us, right? All the benefits, which we'll definitely get into, because it's so hard to explain to someone who doesn't have the experience of actually doing the practice, because it's such a such an individual experiential practice. It's all about the experience. And I love listening to your struggle with it, Dennis, when you talk about, well, people, you just lose people when you even talk about the realms of experience that they don't have, right? The energetic experience, the feeling experience, the sensations. So to kind of retract and talk about Qigong in language that we're more comfortable with, the physicality, the blood circulation, the muscle relaxation, the breath, breathing. Those are at least some
bridges, I'd say.
Yeah, a way to kind of segue into what a few components of Qigong is. And if we go back to the 5 regulations, it's just 2 of the 5, right? Breath and body. And then we have the mind, which Anne mentioned, that you can do a lot with just your mind even, and just that idea of it seems very movie-like. We talk about, Star Wars and using your mind to do things, but there's that mind aspect, Margaret cut to the chase and went right to what the actual word means, which is energy. And then there's this spiritual feeling, ethereal, intangible aspect, and
trying to touch on the deeper aspects.
And so all those being layers of ourselves that we are trying to experience and affect and notice how each one affects the other. I think as practitioners of that, we can talk to each other about these things in these ways, but when it comes to someone completely without any reference point, it's difficult. And Margaret, I appreciate you referring others to the class, but listening to even the 3 of you speak, you've had to hear it a few different times, right? In a trajectory of however many years or decades before you really made that connection. So hopefully we'll bring more and more people into the world of Qigong. And Dennis, the idea of people doing it in the park and everywhere, wherever you go, that's kind of one of the visions I have for the goal, is to have it become so normal in our society where we see people practicing and you don't have to struggle to explain what it is to others.
I just want to break in and remind listeners, you're listening to Talking Chi. I'm Javi, this is Nona, and we're talking with our friends and fellow practitioners, Dennis, Anne, and Margaret, about our experiences with Qigong thus far. And listening to all of you and listening to Nona and just kind of reflecting, I would say, and I would also invite listeners and others, if you're talking with someone about Qigong, one of the things that comes to mind is, for me, is like, how do you experience your body? That would be a good question. I think maybe a baseline question to someone. Well, tell me how you experience your body, right? How do you experience your aspects of self? How do you experience your mental body? How do you experience your emotional body? How do you experience your physical body? And your physical body, a lot of people are able to articulate that, well, I have a pain in my back, or I have a pain in my neck, or I have a bad knee, or I have, something like that. A lot of times, these are the things that we're able to, I think, communicate and find bridges. But I think some of those other sort of deeper feelings are difficult to articulate and bridge in terms of conversation and communicate to others, some deeper aspects of Qigong, like the mind and the energy and the movement of those, and the spiritual aspects as well. I think for me the word well-being is very interesting, and it conjures up and conveys feelings of spirit, of spirituality, in the sense that if you live your life in a way that you experience yourself, your aspects of self, in a way that's well and promotes well-being, that in a way is a spiritual practice. Those are my thoughts. so far.
And you might have lost your friends there.
People have glossed over.
I really like what you're saying there when you're talking about well-being. And if you live your life in a series of well-being ways, then you are promoting well-being throughout your life. And Dennis, I think you touched on that. You just described this Qigong a really nice way by just getting down to that physical level and saying, well, I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was basically by doing Qigong, you're promoting you feel good in your body. It makes you feel good. And that was something that without a doubt is very noticeable. It's more than just a subtle. You don't have to say, well, it's a subtle feeling. No, it's actually after I get finished with an hour-long practice with Javi and Nona and Margaret and Dennis and Tanya, who's not here today, but I feel as I walk about a united sensation of my whole body. My whole body feels united. It's one functioning organism as I walk back and forth. And it gives me this kind of bouncy, uplifted general feeling of well-being. I think that's what you're talking about, Dennis.
That's what I was talking about.
All right. Right on.
I like the descriptive words you use about feeling bouncier and this whole flow of the whole being unified. And that's a big part of it, is to create that harmony in the body so that you do have this buoyancy and lightness.
Yeah.
I like bouncy though.
Yeah, bouncy is nice.
Well, I wanted to comment. I thought it was interesting that, Javi, when you ask people how they experience their bodies, the immediate thing is my pain. Oh, I have pain in my body, and it's isolated, and it's and it's what I have to attend to. It's not like Anne was saying. It's not that unified feeling that everything is working together for the greater good, but oh no, this thing over here needs attention, and oh, it's my foot, or oh, it's my neck, or and I just think it's interesting that we tend to do that rather than think of the whole as functioning together. That's what I had to say.
Yeah.
Definitely, our pain bodies are definitely drawing people, and you're talking about how those are the things that you need to attend to, but a lot of people are not attending to it. They're almost avoiding, right? And so part of the practice that we engage in is, okay, when you have these sensations that take away from that whole feeling, what can you do? What's going on there? How can we do the attending to so that it does come into greater harmony with the rest of the body? So I like that. That's what comes up. It's true.
And we discovered also on the mountain that we had to reframe this idea of pain, in that pain is an opportunity. And if you stay within the framework that the pain is aggravating, or it's angering, or it's irritating, it's difficult to get past, I think, that emotional experience, in the sense that, like, okay, well, here is something the body's communicating to me. Here is an opportunity for me to reestablish or rebuild or hone in on a connection to the body that for some reason somehow got severed in some way. Then it becomes an opportunity to reconnect with oneself and experience oneself, and maybe in that holistic way. So I really like this. I feel like you guys are reminding me, well, we're always trying to do Qigong, because it's like in my mind I'm saying I want to do more Qigong, but I listened to Margaret and it's like I always have the opportunity to do Qigong. So it's a good reminder. just connecting with the breath, and then also those opportunities
always with
to reconnect. Yeah.
I think too, part of listening to you talk about pain and as an opportunity, it also gives you the study of the Qigong theory, I think also gives you a way to understand it a little bit more. Like instead of the pain being there being a question mark as to is this going to stop? Is it going to go away? Why is it there? Qigong kind of offers a framework for understanding your pain and being able to interact with it without being fearful or just being resistance towards it, I think. So at least for me.
I just want to make, I have another comment because Nona, when we first started, you just made, it was almost offhand comment that self-help or self-care is underrated. And that really, it stuck with me because it's, it's like, well, why am I not taking care of this? What is it that is diverting me from really doing the thing that is going to benefit me the most? And I carried that comment, and it's been helpful to me. Thanks for that.
Oh, thanks, Margaret. Yeah,
That's
no,
huge.
our culture does not value that self-care, and we do a lot of self-massage in our classes, and it just feels so good to just take care of yourself and give yourself some love and spend a little bit of time nurturing. And it's not something that's normal or something that's integrated into our day-to-day for a non-practitioner necessarily. So it's a good reminder. I tried to take a wellness day this year at work, and there was resistance, and it's just you have to be sick in order to take a moment for yourself. And I think that that's such a interesting cultural framework that I have. Wait a second, even though I can see myself going towards unwellness and I need just a day to kind of reset, I'm not really supposed to do that until I'm really sick, until I can't get up out of bed and move, then I can take a day. But living in a culture where that's not the norm, to be like, oh wait, I can sense my energy and I can really tell that I need to intervene here, so that it just takes a day to pivot, and get back on this wellness path. We say our society full of chronic illnesses, and you have to have a chronic illness in order to really say, excuse me, I need to do this for myself. So I think it's a really good commitment to make for ourselves. And
a lot of times we don't take action unless we're in a crisis situation, and I think that's reflective of the culture as well, and that's quite unfortunate. And I would say also that when we're going through this journey with the practice, you gain those. One of the benefits is that, like, that self-knowing and that self-monitoring and that self-assessment, to be able to say, well, wow, this is where I kind of headed in an unwell direction. What's going on? And it's I would say sometimes it's a subtle shift or a subtle change, whereas not being versed or practiced or connected to oneself, you might just disregard that sense or disregard that feeling, or maybe push past it and continue until like something actually breaks or falters or something like that.
And that's something our teacher talks about too, is that's the difference with Chinese medicine, where they're reading your energy and reading the balance of your body's energies, that the misalignment, the maladjustment in energy happens way, way before any physical manifestation occurs. So the idea is that you catch it way, way early on before anything serious arises, serious, or just, you know, it's harder to change something physical than something energetic. So, you know, when it's off balance in just the energy realm, why not take care of it then before it's affected the physical realm of your body? I think that's the idea.
In this way too, it's like if someone asks you like, what is Qigong? You can say, well, it's kind of learning to age. I don't know if you guys connect with that, but in a way it's like, for me also, it's I'm learning to age. And there should be an adjective at the end of that.
Well.
Age well, I don't know. I don't know, but yeah. Learning to age well, yeah, maybe.
Well, just to remind folks, you're listening to KMED, Redwood Community Radio, and we've hit the bottom of the hour. And this is Talking Chi, and we are talking with basically our 2-year student cohort, Dennis, Anne, and Margaret, who have been practicing regularly with us for 2 years. I just want to give you an applause.
It's kind of like a birthday celebration.
Congratulations, class, on taking care of yourself.
Let's celebrate with some cake and salad.
That's Javi's new thing, is that he eats his salad with his cake. He thinks it's the best thing ever. Anne's shaking her head like, oh my gosh.
You got to get your sugar with your fiber.
I think that sounds great. There's actually vegetables and sugar, they have a good effect together. So if you've ever eaten too much sugar and you don't know what to do because you realize you ate too much, you can just eat lettuce and it will take care of it.
That's good to know.
That's Javi. That's what he's done. He's got cake and salad.
I love my sugars. I like this question here if you want to go
on. Okay. Javi's looking at my list of questions. So which one? This one?
Yeah.
What have you found surprising about Qigong? Surprise! You're gonna have to think about this. What have you found surprising?
For me, the surprising thing about Qigong is how deep can this go? How deep can I take this? How can I do this more? And that's so far for me. What's the potential? I think also. Dennis, go ahead. You're muted though. Go ahead.
Okay.
There you go.
I think I found that same thing for me too. That as I started reading and understanding more about Qigong, I realized that there's really no end to where it can go. It can go as far as you want to bring it. And as it all depends on how much time and effort you want to put into it.
Do we have an example for our listeners?
Well, I found that as Margaret was saying before, it kind of bleeds into the rest of the things that you do. I found that I do long walks in the morning just about every day, and I found that if I do Qigong before I do the walk, I have a lot more energy. And like Anne was saying, that bouncy feeling is there. Everything seems more effortless because you've got a lot of energy there working for you. So that's That's what I found. And as far as surprises go, another surprise for me was that I had had some intermittent back problems for many, many years. And they had flared up just 3 years ago. I had a really bad session. But I found that after about a year or so of Qigong, those problems have kind of, subsided. I haven't really had any problems. So I've been lucky in that respect. And that's something that surprised me. I didn't really expect it to. I kind of expected it in the beginning to aggravate those kind of things, but actually it helped. And I think that's because when you're doing these movements in a slow, deliberate manner, you're using a lot of muscles that you may not ordinarily use in your day-to-day activities. And those are muscles that help support things like your back and your organs and things in your body that are important to your health and well-being. So that's something I found.
There's another Qigong definition. It's like a self-massage. That's what comes to mind when you're saying that. Yeah. Self-massage.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about, I always try to think about the listeners who don't have that experience that we have in practice. And you talk about the slow, deliberate movements actually cause you to use muscles that you don't normally use. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that much about anatomy, but it seems that in the beginning you tend to feel muscles working that you may not have sensed before in your movements. So if you're starting out with an unfamiliar movement in Qigong, you're going to possibly feel some muscles that you haven't felt before. At least that's what's happened in my experience. And those muscles are helping to facilitate the movement.
Oh, that's well said, Dennis. Those muscles are helping to facilitate that movement because, as we move through life, we can often, at least in an industrial culture like ours, our everyday living, our range of movement can get narrowed down to just like a very limited range. You're just actually doing like 10 basic movements all day and all night. We don't really have to move beyond them. We've got cars and chairs and sofas, and we only actually need to move our body in just like 10 different ways, let's say. So then you walk into a Qigong situation and find, oh yeah, I forgot. I used to move like that as a kid, or I used to really reach my shoulder back or reach my arm around. And then now all these, you get reawakened to a more expansive form of movement that often requires minor muscle groups. You know how so many exercises, people will say, it exercises every major muscle group in your body. Okay, that's great. But there's like 10 times more minor muscles. What about those? And we ignore those. When you're doing Qigong, you begin to, as Dennis says, you begin to use those minor muscle groups. And now there's this whole awakening along your muscle chains and the fascia. Everything gets woken up the more that you do. And you don't have to put a lot of energy. That's the great thing about Qigong. You don't have to be an athlete. You can put, as Dennis made a reference, as little effort into it or more effort. Whichever effort you put in, you're getting the maximum benefit for your own self. And you may choose to put more or less depending on each day. It all works to your benefit.
That's great.
Love it. The minor muscle groups. Let's make an advertisement.
Poor guys.
Qigong about that.
Poor guys. I want to hear what Margaret has to say. I would Yeah, but I just want to jump in here and say, like, for the listener, to experience your minor muscle groups, you can do that right now by trying to stand on one leg. And once you try to stand on one leg, just lifting the knee up to like the waist height, you start to feel all of the stabilizers in the leg trying to orient themselves so that they can support your body's weight, where you're used to having both legs. But once you get onto one leg, then you start to feel those smaller muscle groups. That's a great experience and an awakening, as Anne mentioned, of those muscle groups as your foot's doing this sort of thing, right?
Wobble, doing like a wobble.
Yeah.
I think we can also probably try to count those 10 movements of our day-to-day life. I think it sounds like an exaggeration, but
I think 10 is exaggerating.
That's a generous, right?
Yeah, it's generous, yeah. Margaret, what surprised you about Qigong?
Well, I think I have to say the emphasis on the organs. I didn't really expect that, although I didn't really have expectations going in. I just thought, well, we'll see what this is about. But the relationship of the seasons to the movements to the organs, how everything is all tied in together like that, and also how it again permeates through everything in life. There's the spiral thing, the yin yang thing, how that occurs so many places all the time. Once you become aware of something like that, you see it everywhere. You know, it's pretty amazing that everything is so individual and yet so interconnected. And that's that the body, the organs, the fascia that Anne was mentioning, the eye stuff we've done, and the massage, the ears, you know, all of that. And it's, you know, you can't just do it all at once. It's like you do it over time, and it all works for the benefit of the whole. And that's not exactly a surprise, but it's a deepening of the understanding. And I really am enjoying that part of it.
So let me give you the sitting out around at the coffee table with friends scenario again. So if you were to explain to your friends, what is this organ thing that you're talking about? What would you say to them?
Well,
what organ thing?
What organs? You're talking about a musical instrument or what? The relationship of the seasons to the different organs of the body. And so, for example, I think it was in winter, we worked with the liver and kidneys. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. So yep. For example, so in the winter time, and because of the characteristics of the organs and the seasons and, you know, the cold shutting down of winter and, you know, all of these different aspects of what is going on in the environment, how it relates to our bodies, how the different organs respond to all of that. And what kind of exercise, and also the idea that by our move that Javi used to say the squeezing like a sponge, so you tighten it up and close it up together, and then you open it up, and that gives it some suppleness and some energy, you know, and it puts the energy into the organ that you're addressing. And I just really like all that correlation of the outward and the inward and the working on the energy and how the energy is really everywhere anyway. You know, so it's like we're bringing it in, we're passing it through, we're putting it out, you know, and it's coming back to us. And, you know, it's all this circular cyclic thing, you know, and we're just like part of it. We're just a part of it, and doing that aspects of it that I don't know, emphasize those things to us and give us the understanding in our bodies, not just because we know our cells are smart, right? They all have intelligence. So, it's not just our brains that understand stuff. It's not just, our minds, but we have this deep understanding of how all of these things work together and how we are a part of it. Did that answer the question?
Nature. I think you're speaking to nature's intelligence. Is that
yes?
Is that right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, and bringing that intelligence into ourselves to work with that, the energy and the intelligence and recognizing that part of ourselves that is the part of the greater.
Wow, that's great. I love that you brought that up. I would ask, how do you know when you are interfacing with nature's intelligence?
Ooh.
Because I mean, like you touched on it, and I agree with it that the cells of the body as being part of nature have this intelligence, as nature has this intelligence, the micro and the macro, and it's like, is that feeling of wellness or that bouncy feeling, is that part of the interface with nature's intelligence? How would you describe it, or in what instances or situations that you feel? Like for me, for example, a lot of times when I'm sitting still in meditation, it's the stillness actually where I feel, wow, okay, there's something else that's happening here, where I would say there's nature's intelligence making itself known to me, because there's something that comes into my consciousness that I feel like is not really of my thoughtscape or my mindscape.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I'd also say that, there's a term that I think people use, sometimes musicians or athletes, in the zone, when you're kind of out of your body is functioning at a peak level, and you're kind of, your ego is out of the way, and you're just letting it happen. It's all coming through you and you're working with it. I think that's the best way I could describe it. And also when you get some kind of idea that just sprung forth, and you act on it, and it's something that you hadn't thought of before, but it seems right, and you do it, and it turns out perfect, and everything just falls into place. I think those are the kinds of times that that you're working with that natural intelligence.
Great.
It doesn't happen very often.
I've experienced what Margaret is talking about in distance running. And in distance running, it seemed like at a certain point in a run, you would reach a point where I used to call it the mid-run glide, where you were just sort of on autopilot and moving along, not actually thinking about you were running. You were just, I don't know, kind of zoned out, and just kind of in an observation mode, which is kind of like in meditation, where you get into an observation mode, where you're just experiencing what's going on, with your body or what's going on in your mind, and it's a good feeling when you have that.
I'm not a runner, but I hear that's written about, I think, by many runners, they hit that zone.
Yeah, in the zone.
In the zone.
In the zone.
That's nice.
Yeah, no one's mentioned it before. No one's mentioned it yet, but I'm curious to know, like, if maybe the idea or the word intuition comes to mind. if maybe that's what you might describe here, intuitive feeling, intuit. Maybe we should look up the etymology on that and see what the root is on that, because that might be inside, like the body, feeling inside the body, you know, the intuition. How about you, Anne?
I don't know about that, but I'm not a long distance runner either, but I do feel that I've reached that point that both Margaret and Dennis have talked about in other endeavors. But there's a similarity that makes me think when we're doing a Qigong, we can choose or find ourselves focusing on our bodies and what we're doing, or we can leave our body behind and let our mind just kind of wander wherever. And our body's still doing all the movements, but we're thinking about like, what did I have to pick up at the store? What do I have to do after this is over? And then we can remember, bring the mind back to the body. And I have noticed that the more I focus on my body as we're doing the Qigong movements, the better and the more intense the session becomes. And also, the more time recedes into a soft background. The idea of time, the awareness of time just recedes. And I'm sort of in a timeless mode. And it's like a mind-body unity, because I'm not aware of myself really focusing hard on my body, but my mind is focusing on the body. And I've just sort of stepped into a realm that it's hard to describe, but maybe it's something similar to what Margaret and Dennis. And suddenly the hour session is over, and I walk away with a much more overall intensely embedded feeling. So there.
I would say for me, I definitely am drawn to the altered state of Qigong. Mm-hmm. It's a natural high, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have less than 10 minutes left, and I'm really enjoying this conversation. Any closing remarks, closing words?
And I think one of the questions I was going to ask was, how has your practice changed in the 2 years from when you first started till now? And I think, and maybe you touched on a little bit of that with talking about where you could put your mind and how you can focus your mind, and how disciplined you are with that maybe is something, you know, has changed with your practice. But that's maybe one idea to throw out there as we close here. But and also anything else that you want the audience to know about the practice of Qigong and your experience.
I think along with what Anne was talking about before, I found that as I got more into Qigong, if I was doing a familiar movement and I was totally relaxed, or at least as close to totally relaxed as I could get anyway, I would find that I would be in kind of the zone that Anne was talking about, where you're doing the movement. You're not really thinking about the movement. You're thinking about maybe how your body feels as you're doing the movement. And that, you know, in order to do that, I have to be in a really relaxed state. Otherwise, I don't really experience that. And not only that, it feels like it's your mind that is moving your body and not your muscles. You know, you're not feeling muscles at all. You're just doing the movement. Your mind is driving it, and you know there's energy flowing through your limbs or whatever that you're moving, and it's, you know, it feels like the muscles aren't even involved in it, which is it's a really nice experience. But the other thing I would want to say is, if anybody is thinking about starting Qigong, that they should start slowly and not have a lot of big expectations about things happening quickly. Things take time, and it takes time to develop the agility to do the movements, and also to get into a mindset where you're able to relax and actually experience the movements the way you're supposed to experience them. That's all.
That's great advice, Dennis. Thank you for sharing that.
We got about 3 minutes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Margaret.
I don't really have anything to add to that. They both said that really well. But I just want to thank you two for sticking with it and being there and being patient and all the things that you do and are, and appreciate it very much.
Thank
you,
Margaret.
Man.
Yeah, I second that deeply. We very much appreciate your good humor and your patience and your willingness to expand. One thing that's really great about our sessions together is that we can ask a simple question and you, Nona and Javi, will go on to an answer that just goes so far beyond the, I could say, well, my foot is pointed to the left. Is that okay? And you will take 5 minutes and just be way out there, but it's all related. It's completely related, and it stimulates our curiosity and interest. So that I just love that part. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you. We totally enjoy our classes together too, and it's been really fun journey of 2 years. It's kind of almost like, wow, it's been a little bit timeless too. And I think it's nice because 4 seasons Qigong really gives it this year like structure. And when we come back to the season that we maybe started with, I go, oh wow, we're doing this again. Like, so it's kind of been a nice added bonus. One that I surprised me that it marks time nicely.
I actually love the fact too that the movements, when you come to them again, you're able to say, oh, I've done this before, and there's a familiarity there that allows you to just really relax a little deeper into the movement. I like that. The seasonal cyclical cycle. That sounds redundant.
It's all cyclical cycling.
The seasonal cyclical cycle. Oh, well, thank you so much for doing this with us, and hope listeners enjoyed and laughed with us as well. And any questions, feel free to reach out to us, talkingqi@gmail.com. and talkingqi@gmail.com. We'll see you folks hopefully tomorrow. We've got another Wednesday session planned.
This is going to play on a Thursday, however.
Oh, we'll see you tomorrow. This is going to play the next day.
We'll see you in the past.
Well, we will see you tomorrow on Thursday because it will be Friday.
We'll see you soon. Good job, Margaret. Good job. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.
Okay.
Thanks, Nona.
All right.
Thanks, Avi.
Okay.